sometimes with vegan-y, vegetarian food, it's nice to have something central in your dish. You know, kind of steak, for want of a better description. Cauliflower is great for this. Another one that's great is celeriac, which is the bulb form of celery. You have the stem celery, but this celeriac is very, very versatile. And what I'm going to do here is just make a nice celery steak, and I'm going to pair that with some ginger lemon rice, just a basmati rice, very simple little kind of a rice pilaf dish, and just make a classic kind of a peanut satay, which is a lovely little sauce. Serve that in a little bed of lettuce, lovely fresh, crisp, vibrant, nutty dish with, you know, the celery, but you're going to have the central kind of steak of celery, which kind of lifts the whole thing as well. But with that, first thing I'm going to do is, very quickly, I'm going to use the water that I'm going to, first of all, cook the celery in a little bit of water, and then grill it, because I find it's much easier to grill and a lot more flavour. And I want to always try to extract as much flavour from things as I can. And one way of doing that is the water that I poached the celeriac in, I'm going to also use that water then to cook my rice. And that way I'm going to have that little bit of celery flavour in there as well. So what I'm going to do first of all is take my 2 celery steaks, if you like, and I'm going to use 1 cup of basmati rice. So the measurement that I use then is 2 cups of water. You could use stock, but 2-to-1 ratio. But I'm going to this time put the water in with the celeriac. I'm going to put a small little pinch of salt in there, and then pop that on a heat. Pop a lid on it, and I'm going to cook that until the celery becomes nice, and the celeriac, I should say, becomes nice and tender. That's the first job on the way. But keep the water then. We're going to use that same water then to cook our rice, and it's going to give a little bit more flavour. It's all about trying to capture flavour. Now, next thing I'm going to do is make my satay sauce, just add here. Now, I'm going to kind of make it a little bit chunky. I'm going to use a combination of fresh peanuts, 100 grams, and a nice generous tablespoon of peanut butter. Very, very simple sauce. I've got the juice and zest of 1 lime. I've already zested that on a fine zester. So, first thing I'm going to do is add my peanuts into a food processor, not a blender, because I want to keep a little bit of texture, kind of a nutty kind of a texture. And I'm going to pop my peanut butter in there as well. And then, just going to give that a quick blend. Next up, I'm going to put in my lime zest into the blender, my curry powder, tablespoon of that, 2 cloves of garlic, and juice of the lime. I'm also going to put in a generous teaspoon of honey, or a small tablespoon thereabouts. Just give it a little bit of sweetness in this. A tablespoon of honey, I should say. Give that a little bit of a blend. When that starts coming together into a nice kind of sandy kind of texture, then to finish it, 200 grams of coconut milk. And that's your very, very simple satay sauce. Lovely versatile sauce, you can use for all sorts of things. So that's everything now, and I'll just wait till my celeriac becomes nice and tender, and then I'm going to take that off, retain the water, and then cook the rice. And while the rice is cooking, we'll be able to cook the celeriac steaks at the same time, and then finish the whole dish. Very, very simple, really flavourful little dish this. So with my celeriac, I just cook that now until it's just nice and tender. It's just much easier to grill than just trying to grill it from raw. Just, I find this never really works well. Plus you get this extra stock. Now don't worry if your stock is after evaporating down. Just the cup that you originally measured it in. Don't forget there's that nice flavour of celery in this. So the original cup, just simply pop your stock that's left. Could add a little bit more water in there. And then very, very simply just pour it into the cup. And just top the cup up, and 2 cups of water. Now you have a nice little celery stock. Very, very simple. So, we're going to need that 2 cups of water, but next up, I'm just going to get the rice on the way. So, pot with a nice tight-fitting lid. I'm going to add about a tablespoon of coconut oil into that. And also I'm going to add my ginger and my onion, which I had chopped up. Oh, one little thing with the satay, I had forgotten an ingredient. A tablespoon, and the satay there it is there. Also there should be a tablespoon of soy sauce. I just mixed it in just manually because it was light soy sauce, just a tablespoon as well. And that's what your satay sauce should look like. Lovely, flavoursome, very, very versatile little sauce that can be used for dipping, all sorts of things. So, I'm going to just let those sweat away there for a few seconds to soften up and infuse. You can add a pinch of salt in there, but don't forget the water that you use to cook the celery was lightly salted as well. So do salt cautiously. You don't really want to end up with something salty. Just going to let them soften away and cook away there for a few seconds then. So, having allowed my ginger and my onions in the coconut oil, just sweat away there, just cook away there for a few minutes till they just start to tenderize a little bit. I'm next going to add in my rice. 1 cup of rice. I'm just going to cook that around for a few seconds, just to kind of get it all coated with a little bit of oil, until it starts to go a little kind of a light translucent colour. And then into that, I'm going to add 2 cups, including my stock, of water. Also at this stage, the zest from the lemon. I'm just going to pop in there as well. I'm going to put the lemon juice in at the very end of cookery. That way it's going to be a nice fresh taste. So, just going to let that come up to a nice simmer, which won't take too long. And then the residual heat in that should pretty much finish it off cooking. That's why if you can use a nice heavy kind of casserole, it can be quite handy for this kind of a dish. It's a very, very simple rice pilaf kind of style. So, rice comes up to a nice simmer. Let it simmer just for a few minutes. Don't forget this is a measured recipe. In many ways what you're doing with rice is just rehydrating it. So, pop the lid on. Let it simmer away there for a few minutes. And then what I normally do is just take it off the heat and allow the residual heat in the pot to finish off the cookery. And then what I'm going to do is just take a nice little skillet pan. You can use a frying pan, but if you have a skillet, it gives a nice effect. And what I've done is with my celeriac, very simply, I just took a tiny piece of coconut oil. You don't need much. And while they're still nice and warm, I just kind of coated them with a little kind of piece of the coconut fat, just to get a nice kind of sear on them. So I'll just allow that skillet pan to warm up for a few minutes. So my nice hot skillet pan then, just going to just carefully pop my celeriac. You don't need to use surplus oil, better to just oil the vegetable itself. And don't forget, these are warm and cooked through, so you're just getting a nice grill mark on them there from this. Pop them on the skillet pan, and don't be moving them out and get a nice sear on them, a nice kind of a nice grill mark. So as they're just cooking on the skillet, and that way when you lift them up, you have this nice grill mark, and then I'm just going to put in kind of an opposite grill mark. Just to make them look cool. And just let them just sear away there, taking your time, and just keeping an eye on them. It's great. The rice will be, just the thing with the rice as well is don't take the lid off, because then you'll lose all the heat and it won't cook nicely in that kind of residual heat. So having just allowed those grill on one side there nicely, not moving them around much, you get that lovely kind of grill mark effect. And then just finish them on the other side. You can just kind of, again, the seasoning was in the water that you're cooking them in, so they should be nicely seasoned at the moment. We'll just let those stand away there and get that nice kind of presentation side ready. Again, they're an excellent kind of central part to a dish, but you'll find that if you just try cook them without poaching them first, it just doesn't work out so well. So I'm just going to let them hold on that pan there for a few minutes. I've just turned off the heat, and then I'm just going to have a little check on my rice. So rice has been in there about 8 minutes, and as you can see, the residual heat is after taking care of the rice and rehydrating it. Now if there's any water, just pop the lid on, put a little bit of more heat onto it, and the rice will soak up the remainder of that water, or stock if you'd like to use instead. So I'm just going to pop that on the heat again, just to get a little bit of heat back into it, and then let that rehydrate. It won't take long at all. So I haven't just waited another about 2 or 3 minutes. As you can see, almost all of that water has now been absorbed by the rice. If you have a little taste of it, you'll see the rice is getting nice and tender. And now I'm just going to take the lid off it. You can just check the seasoning yourself on this. I just think the rice just needs a pinch of salt at this point. And into that, I'm going to add the juice of the lemon. And just let that kind of cook into it nicely. That's a nice, fresh tasting lemon ginger rice. And then let it kind of, if you taste it, you'll know yourself if the rice is cooked. And then just let it kind of cook away there for a second, allowing all the excess moisture to kind of just come off it, so it doesn't end up kind of soggy. So that's our rice done. So I'm just going to take that off the heat now for a second, and just pop these little steaks back on the heat then again. Onto those, I'm just going to dab a little bit of my satay on it. I'm also going to mix a couple of teaspoons of that in through my rice as well, because it's nice. It'll just bring that extra lovely kind of peanutty flavour into it. And that is pretty much the bones of this dish. Just letting that, and it's a good idea just to finish that even under the grill for a second, just to kind of let it cook through with that. And then it's only a case of just plating this one up. And to plate it up, what I've done is I've taken my nice fresh lettuce leaves, just spread them liberally out on a plate. I can take some of my nice rice, pop it in the middle. That brings up your nice greens, keeps it all nice and fresh. Very good. Then take your nice steak. Pop it on top. And you're pretty much ready to go. Little celeriac steaks, ginger lemon rice. And with a nice simple satay.